Hi. In this episode, also, I am walking back to my experience in the city of Moscow. It's a large city. I think something like 500 square miles in extent. A large area. Also, there is what is called a older Moscow architecture and a newer Moscow architecture, which is very visible, very much visible to any connoisseur's eyes. And it is in the sense that, for example, the ministry hotel where I was living had a box-like appearance, with a lot of glass and so on and so forth. Whereas diagonally across the place where the hotel stood or stands, let us say, is the university, not Moscow State University and not University of Moscow, Moscow State University. In Russian language, it goes something like Moskovsky Gosdurnaya Universitet. Well, I'm not sure if that is 200% correct, but Universitet is correct usage. Gosdurnaya is also a correct usage. What is Gosdurnaya stands for state-led. And Universitet is actually the declension in Russian language for university. Anyway, and on the weekends, I used to walk into that campus instead of staying at home and in the bed and looking around for, nothing actually, to appreciate the building architecture, ornate buildings. And I don't know, mostly it came from that structures appeared very much like what was built in the ancient Spanish or Italian architecture. Maybe they are the ones who helped the Tsars of Russia to build those buildings, or later on also in the design of the buildings, etc. So this Moscow State University is in a sprawling campus, and the main block actually is on the far side of my hotel. And if you walk maybe for 5 to 10 minutes, you will reach the far side. And then if you turned around and looked up, you will see a huge tower, with minars or spires, whatever you want. And on the top of the tallest one, there is a red star, a 5-pointed red star. That is the interesting point, which is actually the red color, I was told, is due to the fact that the star is built out of red ruby, a mineral, a variety of red ruby, let us say. And this is a huge one. And if you walk further from the main block viewpoint, further toward northerly direction, there are avenues as well as large green patches. You reach the far end northerly end of the campus. And there is a nice place, nice view from where you can see the Lenin Stadium across the river, Moscow River. And in fact, because of the river in between Lenin Stadium and this campus is very tall in elevation relative to the what is called the stadium and the rest of the area of Moscow. The stadium is actually was actually constructed for one of the Olympics that was held, Olympic meet that was held in the USSR or Soviet Union those days. And then, of course, at the far end, there is also a church, the Orthodox Church. And actually, all those churches and at least that I saw in Moscow, in and around Moscow, are really tiny structures, tiny in the sense compared to our churches in Kerala, which will accommodate, anywhere between 500 to 1,000 people at any point in time during any service. Those churches can hardly hold under 50 people. And this is actually, nothing magical, but that is what you need to accommodate the believers those days in the church believers. The reason is the population is so small compared to our overcrowded Kerala. And another thing is, from there, if you looked back, you will see a beautiful garden with the flowering plants. And I always used to wonder, whenever I went there, all the plants and all the flowers in the plants will be very fresh. Not only in the front of the university area, but in the so-called Red Square and suburbs. Red Square is all in the Russian language known as Krasnaya Ploshada. Okay, there also it is all brand new flowers every morning. There won't be anything that is wilting or dried up. What the interesting part is, the Soviet Union or the Moscow government in charge of all the, visible whatever of the city, and who is in charge of the plants and watering the plants, etc. What they do is, periodically, systematically, all the plants with the flowers are replaced by a new set. And if you wanted to know that, all that you have to do is you'll have to walk into some backyard of adjacent to the Krasnaya Ploshad or the Red Square. Okay, now, having said that, let me go back to our Moscow University campus. One of the things that I discovered during one of my strolls through the streets inside the campus is one which is named Yulitsa Mendeleva. Yulitsa Mendeleva. Well, this is nothing. The Mendeleva is actually, Yulitsa, for example, the feminine gender, masculine gender, etc. So Yulitsa is a street, and Mendeleva is after Mendeleev. Who is this Mendeleev? Now, other than the person who had produced the periodic table of chemical elements. That is interesting part. So, and another thing that I did not walk into the campus or the classrooms or the faculty rooms, even though I had a plan. Unfortunately, my immediate host in PFU told me that it is not worth going there. If you have seen the faculty rooms and the teachers in the PFU and Ordoniki, it is as good as looking at the office and the students' classrooms, etc. And it's a very large campus in terms of the student admissions. And there is another interesting thing about the system, Soviet system those days is, practically in all the government building, all are owned by government. All those buildings where offices work during daytime will have a stalovaya or a cafeteria at the basement. And the stalovaya advantage is, you don't get a variety of dishes there, but you can eat a meal for your breakfast, for your supper, or for your lunch. at a very cheap price. Food is probably the cheap stuff, one of the cheapest stuffs in those days in Moscow. Naturally, like in Soviet Union also. And then what else I did? From there, after looking around those places, on a second weekend, I just took a walk along the street, which is one that is again headed toward the northerly direction from my hotel. But, that leads to what is called the estate, where the party bosses lived. And perhaps this is the only region, a sector, where the houses of the party bosses are secured with a very tall compound walls, firstly, and also very tall gates, which will remain shut always. And another interesting thing that happened was I was just walking toward that direction, and there was one gentleman, a Soviet citizen, standing in a bus stop, hopefully for catching a bus. One of the things he said was, "Good morning." In other words, "Здравствуйте, товарищ." That's what he said. I said, "Da," and replied in the same fashion. And then he asked me in Russian, "Spichka." In other words, this is how you open a conversation. What it is, I said, "Niet," because what is Spichka? That is actually matches or matchbox, whatever. And, then the next thing, he can easily spot that I am not a native Russian. I am a visitor. Then the next question he asked to me was, "Dollar da? Do you have dollars?" And I said, "Yes." And then he said, $1 will fetch 2.75 rubles. And if I am willing to sell some dollars to him, he is ready to buy it. Well, of course, this kind of, illegal money changing happens always. So, however, all that I had was only $8, which I wanted to keep very secure in my purse. And I said, I don't have surplus dollars. So then that man said, "Okay, fine." And then another interesting thing is, there are in the what is called in the Leninsky Prospect is a road, it's an avenue road, which is a divided highway like road that will take a motorist or a bus passenger over to the Kremlin Red Square area. And on the either side of the that Leninsky Prospect, as it is called, there are what is called the kiosks, small shops, which will sell certain specialized items. So I used to have a Seiko wristwatch, and all of a sudden I discovered that one of those pins that fastens the chain or links the chain to the body of the watch, that got worn out and came off. So I wanted a new one to be, otherwise I won't be able to wear the wristwatch. So while doing my walking expedition, I just saw a what is called a kiosk where wristwatches are sold. And I stopped over, and I could converse with these natives, the citizens, more or less as precisely at least 50 to 60% in Russian language. Then this man said, he looked at my wristwatch, and I said, "Oh, it's a good watch, etc., etc." And then said, he has run out of that pin. And the pin is actually only 10 kopeck. In other words, 100 kopeck will make a ruble, and it is, in other words, equivalent of something like 10 paisa in India. Then I said, okay, sorry, he said, and then I said, okay, thank you. Then I started walking, and then he hailed back me. And, then he started, very friendly conversation, and told me how he feels if the wristwatch is not usable, if you cannot wear it in your wrist. And then he told me that he can help me if I gave him 2 rubles. And because he lives with his dad, almost all people do that way, and for other reasons. And he will have one of the pins in his dad's wristwatch removed and give it to me, provided I pay a price of 2 rubles. And this man also said, come next day, tomorrow morning, if you are free. I said, I will come sometime tomorrow. That's all I said. I was planning to see him on my way back from PFU. And I paid $2, and I got the pin set in my wristwatch, and I wore the watch. I told this story to Sasha. Sasha is a student, a friend of mine, in the PFU, in the geology department. Sasha's, is a nickname. His actual name is Alexander somebody, with a last name, Russian last name. So he got, when I completed the story, he got really upset because, maybe he thought I will get a wrong impression of the corrupt practices at the lowest level that happens all the time in Soviet Union. It is true, no doubt about it. I had a similar experience in a camera store. Okay, then another interesting thing is that I went along with the Strode to see a Russian circus. There is a huge arena somewhere along on the same side as the MGU, Moscow State University, but closer to the Leninsky, on the opposite side of the intersection in the Leninsky Prospect. It is like a huge bowl-shaped thing, architecturally, with some hemispherical roof. And every day there is at least one show of the Soviet or the Russian circus. In other words, all those artists who work in that circus arena, they're all government paid employees. So it is like anybody going to the office or to this place of duty. These people assemble around 5 o'clock, and 6 o'clock the show will start. I think each seat would have cost something like 3 rubles. And a wonderful experience in the what is called the circus arena. And the 3 ruble is not the costliest seat. Costliest seat is you have boxes where you can sit with your family or friends and have fun also. And at the same time watching the circus. And the lighting. In other words, there are spotlights only to shining on the artists, and everything else is practically dark. And they wear their robes they wear, if at all. Some circus people or circus artists have minimum robes, and they will be actually glowing. In other words, you can detect the people. There's the different, the numbers they do very clearly from wherever you are seated. And that was a very interesting experience I had in Soviet Union. In other words, those days, anybody who goes to Moscow will not, as a tourist, will not miss a circus, view of a circus, Russian circus. And then, on the intersection, of course, after the circus, Strode went over to his home, and I took a bus over to my hotel. And there is an interestingly named train station or subway or metro, underground metro, unlike a Kochi metro above the ground. And that metro station is named after Jawaharlal Nehru. In fact, there is a plaque, polished stone, which on the fixed to the at the eye level, in that at the entrance, which read Stansia Jawaharlal Nehru. Remember, my hotel stood in a place that was named Indira Gandhi Prasad. I'm not sure whether even today, after the dismantling of Soviet Union, these names are still there. Anyway, there are a lot of stories about the Soviet experience. I will come up with another one in the next episode.